The Ottoman Empire was once one of the most powerful empires in the world. It ruled over regions in Europe, Africa, and Asia for hundreds of years. The empire was once invisible, and so when four small states got together and overthrew this mighty empire, it shocked everyone. No one saw it coming. Today on Behind the Date, we will travel back in time to discover why the war began, who were the important participants, and what were the devastating consequences the conflict had on the world. The history of Balkan Wars is very complicated, with years of politics and history to be taken in context. But in a nutshell, it basically went something like this. The Ottoman Empire in its glorious days had amassed a huge number of territories all across the world. But they did not account for the fact that after annexing a territory, you will have to rule it. They occupied a varied range of regions, each with its own culture, cuisine, and way of life. As a result, the locals felt oppressed by the empire and were willing to go to any length to get free. On the other hand, the Ottoman Empire's governance became extremely weak in its later years. It was riddled with poor administration, which resulted in the empire losing several major regions in Europe. The final nail in the coffin was the Albanian revolts, which exposed the Ottoman Empire's military inadequacy and the empire's overall inability to rule. Numerous tiny but powerful states such as Greece, Serbia, Montenegro, and Bulgaria broke free from the control of the empire, like tigers looking over the frail deer. They saw an opportunity to take back what was theirs. Collectively, they formed a coalition called the Balkan League. Their mission was to permanently defeat the Ottoman Empire. It was the smaller state that started the war. Montenegro, which had previously defeated the Ottoman Empire in the Montenegrin-Ottoman War, 1876-1878, launched their war by attacking the empire's Albanian region. The remaining allies joined the war 10 days later. The conflict moved quickly, with the Balkan League scoring the succession of fast victories over the Ottomans. The League soldiers were able to quickly take much of the Ottoman territory in their region, including the cities of Istanbul, Adrianople, and Salonika. It was a severe setback for the Ottoman Empire, which had previously controlled much of the region. The empire suffered a great deal initially. They had long ignored its military, and its forces were both undertrained and under-equipped in comparison to those of their enemies. Furthermore, the military was profoundly divided along ethnic and religious lines, as well as by numerous Ottoman political groups. This internal division, combined with the lack of resources and training, made it impossible for the Ottoman armies to combat effectively against the coalition of nations that had formed against them. It appeared that they were on a verge of defeat. But it was not to be, at least not this soon. In early 1913, aided by the support of the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Empire did manage to push back against the Balkan League. And by the summer of 1913, they were successful in retaking much of their lost territory. But the casualties were simply too much. The human loss outweighed any territorial gain. The Ottoman Empire was definitely on the losing side. A peace treaty called the Treaty of London was signed in August 1913. Under the terms of the treaty, the Balkan states were granted their independence. They were now, after a very long time, truly free. It was promised that there would be no violence, no bloodshed. There would be peace. And these were all true, but only for a year. You see, the Treaty of London that ended a war in May 1913 did not give Bulgaria the territories it wanted, as most of the land went to Serbia and Greece. This produced a lot of hatred and bitterness among Bulgarians who felt betrayed by their allies. So, with its ego massively bruised, Bulgaria declared a war on Serbia and Greece on June 29, 1913. Montenegro, Bulgaria's ally in the First Balkan War, remained neutral. Bulgaria's military objectives were to retake the disputed territories of Macedonia, Thrace, and Salonika. In response, Serbia and Greece allied with the Ottoman Empire and launched a counterattack on Bulgaria. The Ottoman Empire joined in because they were keen to reclaim some of its lost Balkan regions. The majority of fighting took place in the disputed provinces of Macedonia and Thrace. The Bulgarians were initially successful, taking Skopje and pushing the Serbian and Greek forces back. The victory, however, was short-lived. The enemies quickly launched a counterattack and reclaimed the majority of lost areas. For several months, both sides suffered tremendous casualties. The war had taken its toll, and many people across regions were looking forward to ending it somehow. It was the Bulgarians who eventually had to surrender and put an end to the war. They were coerced into signing a negotiated peace treaty on August 10, 1913, and they were forced to yield the majority of the contested territory to Serbia and Greece under the conditions of the Treaty of Bucharest. Bulgarians were also required to pay the Ottoman Empire reparations. The Second Balkan War was a major setback for Bulgaria, which had hoped to gain control of the territories it had lost in the First Balkan War. The war also caused a serious rift between the Balkan League allies, which would have serious repercussions in the years to come. The war ultimately ended with Bulgaria in a weakened state, while Serbia and Greece emerged as the major powers in the region. With Balkan coming to an end, it was again promised that there would be no violence, no bloodshed, and there would be peace. And these were all true, but only for a year. The First Balkan War was fought between the Balkan League and the Ottoman Empire. Although it was not directly related to the World War I, it did play a role in the onset of the war. The disintegration of the Ottoman Empire as the result of the war produced a power vacuum in the region. This void was filled by newly independent countries such as Serbia, resulting in rising tensions between them and Austria-Hungary, a neighboring competitor. Serbia's desire for expansion, along with Austria-Hungary's fear of it, ultimately led to the assassination of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo in 1914, the event which led to the First World War in 1914. Balkan states, even though not in the center, were part of the global conflict. For 3 years straight, the region saw nothing but wars, and now it's happening on a scale much bigger than anyone can imagine. The want for power devastated the region. Millions of people were displaced over the years. Unfortunately, the legacy of violence in the region did not end with the conclusion of the wars. The instability and division caused by the wars continued to be a source of tension in the region throughout the 20th century, leading to several conflicts including the Yugoslav Wars and the Kosovo War, where thousands were killed. Violence is inherited, and the Balkan states are proof of it. Its legacy of violent outbreaks continues to this day, with the region often cited as the epicenter for future conflicts. If you want more such interesting stories, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel Behind the Date.